This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Guten Erev Shabbos Rabbi. This is a very exciting shiur. Today's shiur on Tefilla, as all the shiur on Tefilla are sponsored by a dear friend, Rabbi Rose of Los Angeles, Leila Nishmas, his brother, Tzvi ben Levi Yitzchak, and Sham Shem Alibi Yomei Tzioshi for his whole family, for Simchas and Nachas Abi Eskel Tzedek. This will be our concluding shiur on Psukei de Zimra. We've been doing this for a couple of years, and Be'ezus Hashem, in the new year, we're going to be studying the Birchas Kriya Shema. So this will be our last shiur on Psukei de Zimra. I think maybe if we have one or two shiurim before Rosh Hashanah, what we'll do is we'll review the main limudim from Psukei de Zimra. But this for now will be our last shiur on Psukei de Zimra. Yishtabach, last week we learned Yishtabach should have 53 words. Yishtabach was composed by Avraham, and his Rashi Tevos are alluded to. Kela Dazadan Aflois, Baruch Hanashemaz Riboin Kamasim, Haboiche B'Shir Zimra, Melech Kelche Oilamim. And it was also legislated by Shloimei. Shloimei Yishtabach Shimcha La'ad Malkeinu Hakel. So by Avraham and Shloimei. And we have a concept that there are a number of shevachim in Yishtabach, and there's a question, how many are there? And that is the subject of today's shiur. How many praises are in Yishtabach? Here we go. Reb Schwab writes in the Iyun Tefilla, the minhag ha'olam is that the chazan starts, Brachos v'aydos l'shem chag hakadosh. Brachos v'aydos me'atav yad olam, Baruch atah Hashem, gam l'gadol b'tishbachos, kadosh adonai neflois, havoy chever shir zimra, melech kelchei ha'olamim. By the way, that's the nusach of how they davened in my yeshiva, in Yeshiva Chavetz Chaim. That's the nusach they use, b'yemais ha'choel. Brachos v'aydos me'atav yad olam, Baruch atah Hashem, kel melech. Anyway, most chazanim begin brachos v'aydos. Reb Schwab says on Rosh Hashanah the chazan begins Baruch atah Hashem. Now, in our yeshiva, and I think in most shuls they don't. They start from brachos v'aydos as well. Brachos v'aydos me'atav yad olam, Baruch atah Hashem, kel melech gadol b'tishbachos. So I think in most shuls they do start with brachos v'aydos, but Reb Schwab brings that in his shul they started from Baruch atah Hashem, and Reb Schwab says the correct custom is always to start from Baruch atah Hashem, because you can't be mafsik in the middle of the shvachim. You have to say the shvachim one after another. It doesn't have to be b'neshima achas, but it has to be straight. Yishtabach Shem Chalam Makenu Kel Magdal Shiur Ushvacha Halav V'Zimra Ois Umem Shala Netzach Gedula Ugvura Tihila V'Sveros Kedusha Umalchus Brachos V'Aydos. So you can't be mafsik in the middle of the 15 shvachim. So if you can't be mafsik, how could the chazan start from Brachos V'Aydos? Says Reb Schwab, it's wrong. The chazan should always begin Baruch atah Hashem. You should always start from Baruch atah Hashem. You can't be mafsik in the middle of the shvachim. He says those that are mafsik, it's beli tamu makar. There's no reason and there's no source. Now, I think we have to try to defend the practice of starting from brachos v'aydos, because not only, like Reb Schwab says, in shuls, Reb Schwab says that in many shuls they do that during the week, but not on Rosh Hashanah. I think in almost every shul that I know of, they do it during the week and Rosh Hashanah. They start from brachos v'aydos. So let's analyze that. Reb Schwab says, don't be mafsik in the middle of the 15 L'shonos of Shabach. It comes from the Magen Avram. Not that you have to, it's not like the 10 sons of Haman, by the way. They have to say it b'neshima achas. I know Yaakov Mordechai is getting excited when he hears the 10 sons of Haman. But no, it's not like that. But rather, you have to say it b'ne'ima, b'kavana, and you just can't be mafsik between the shvachim. Why? The 15 shvachim correspond to the shem ka. Ka. By the way, we had 15 words we learned last week from Baruch Atah Hashem and the conclusion of the Yishtabach. And l'chayra, according to that, it would not be correct to start from brachos v'hodos. The Mishnah Berurah also says there are 15 shvachim in Yishtabach, from Shiur u'shvacha until me'ata, and you can't be mafsik in between them. Someone who's mafsik, there's a big oynesh, but it doesn't have to be b'neshima achas. Says Rabbi Yaakov Emden the same. The Zohar is also mashna that way, not like the Shla. However, if you look up the Chayei Adam learns there are not 15 shvachim, but a different cheshbon. Chayei Adam learns there are 13 shvachim. Look in the Chayei Adam. Chayei Adam says, Yizoher ma'oid sheyomer yud gimel shvachim shebi Yishtabach. You should be very careful to say the 13 praises of Yishtabach from Shiur u'shvacha until Malchus. So that's interesting. 13 shvachim. And that's something I want to focus on today. So that's a different count. If you look in the Zohar HaKadosh, the Zohar says the same as the Chayei Adam. The Zohar says, Kivan demati barnash liyishtabach notal kuchabricha hu kisra. God takes his crown, v'shavi leikama, he puts it in front of him. V'chol yachid shrias la'askana l'meisei kamei malka ilah, and everyone is fit to come before the Supreme King. And we need to crown him with the 13 pathways of mercy. That from him we are blessed. They are the 13 fragrant aromas, which are the 13 fragrant aromas in Shirim. You know what they are? Shiur, u'shvacha, Hallel, the Zimra, Oiz, u'memshala, Netzach, Gedula Gvura, Tila B'Sveras Kedusha, HaTreisa, that's 12. U'labasar, l'chaber l'vadav l'mer, u'malchus. The 13th is u'malchus, begindi misbarach minayo. And at that time, you need to place your heart and your thoughts about this matter. V'loi l'shtoi klal, not to talk at all. D'loi lipsik, not to be mafsik. And if you're mafsik, then a fire emanates from under a heavenly cherub. And he calls out, he says, so-and-so interrupted. He should be cut off because he's not going to see the majesty of the Creator. So basically, you don't want to talk during that time of Yishtabach, because it's always best to avoid being electrocuted by rays of fire emanating from the wings of cherubs. That's always, I'm just giving you some good advice. It's always good to avoid being, struck down by heavenly fire. So just don't talk during that time. That's, no extra charge for that piece of advice. So this is very interesting. So while the Mishnah Berurah says there are 15 praises in Yishtabach, the Chayei Adam and the Zohar says there are 13. In that case, that may be the basis to start from brachos v'hodos, because according to the Chayei Adam and the Zohar, brachos v'hodos are not part of the 13. They're not part of the 13 shvachim, but instead they're like the new series, and they're connected to brachos v'hodos, are connected to Baruch Atah Hashem Kel Melech. Now it's very interesting that the number 13 is a very dominant number in the Seder HaTefillah. I'll give you a few examples. First of all, we know, of course, Yigdal is a piyut that's based on the Yud Gimel Ikarei Emunah of the Rambam. And then right before Psukit Zimra and Karbanos, we say, Rabbi Shmuel Oimer B'Shalosh Esrei Midos HaTorah Nidrashes Bahem. And the Rabbi Yaakov Emden says, why do we say the Bryce of Rabbi Shmuel? Because this is the beginning of Sefer Taras Kayanim. Most of the mitzvahs of Taras Kayanim are nidrash through these midos. Therefore, it's considered like Gemara, because everybody has an obligation to learn Gemara every day, and therefore by saying Rabbi Shmuel Oimer, you fulfill your obligation to learn Gemara. But then Rabbi Yaakov Emden says also there's no machlokes in this Perek, and Al Derech HaKabbalah, the 13 midos Shatan Reshes Behem, are Ramos in the Yud Gimel midos Harachamim. So that's one example where the number 13 and the Yud Gimel midos Harachamim are appear in Shemona, in the Seder HaTefillah. But then Reb Chaim Vital tells us from the Arizal that from Baruch Sha'amar until Melech Mula Batishbachos, you have 13 Baruchs. Baruch Sha'amar V'Yoelam, Baruch Hu, Baruch Ha'imeh V'Oiseh, Baruch Goyzem Mekayim, Baruch Ha'Oiseh Bereshis, Baruch Merachim Al Aretz, Baruch Merachim Al Abriyos, Baruch Mishalem Sachar Tov, Baruch Chaylo Ad, Baruch Poida, Baruch Shemoy, Baruch Ato Hashem, Baruch Ato Hashem. So we have 13 Baruchs in Baruch Sha'amar. Very interesting. So we have 13 Shevachim in Yishtabach and 13 Baruchs in Baruch Sha'amar. And then I found an amazing thing in the Aruch HaShulchan. That the Aruch HaShulchan writes in Siman Nun Aleph that they were masakin a bracha before Psukei de Zimra. And that's the bracha of Baruch Sha'amar. And you need to say Baruch Sha'amar with a nigun and with a sweetness because it's a Shiur Na'eh. And it has 87 words. The siman is Roshai Kesem Paz. And there are 13 Baruchs connected the Yud Gimel Midos to be Moishech Bracha from all the Yud Gimel Midos. And says the Aruch HaShulchan, and I never saw anyone else who says this, there are 13 parts of Psukei de Zimra. You ready? Haidu, Mizmar L'Saida, Yehi Chavaid, Ashrei, 5 Halalukas, Baruch Hashem Le'olam Amen, Vayivarach David, V'charois, Az Yashir. So the 13 Baruchs and Baruch Sha'amars, 13 parts of Psukei de Zimra, and the 13 Baruchs of Baruch Sha'amar, each one is a Baruch for another Chelik of Psukei de Zimra. And then it comes out, Rabbi say, amazing. So there are 13 Baruchs and Baruch Sha'amars, 13 parts of Psukei de Zimra, and according to the Chai Adam and the Zayar, there are 13 Shvachim in Yishtabach. Marv Rabbi say, and how many parts of Shemona Esrei are there? Well, you have 3 brachas in the beginning, 3 in the end. We know our Shemona Esrei is now 19. As Avudraham says, there are 13 middle brachas of Shemona Esrei. So it comes out amazing, Rabbi Isai, that there are, in each part of davening, you have the number 13. In Karbanos, Rabbi Shmuel Omer, Psukei de Zimra, Baruch Sha'amar, and Psukei de Zimra itself. Yishtabach, which is like a hakdama of Birchas Kriya Shema, is 13. And then Shemona Esrei is 13. We once spoke out an amazing observation of the Chassam Sofer that according to authentic Minog Ashkenaz, there are 4 times in davening that you say Shema Yisrael. Namely, you say Shema Yisrael you say Shema in the Karbanos. You say Shema according to Nusach Ashkenaz, even though many Ashkenaz Dorma doesn't have it. At the end of Az Yashir, it says Uvisayrascha Kasav Lemar Shema Yisrael. You say Shema, and then in Aleinu you say Shema. At the end, in many Ashkenaz Dorma, it says Uvisayrascha Kasav Lemar Shema Yisrael. And the Maharam Shik brings from his Rebbe, the Chassam Sofer, an amazing observation, amazing tradition. He says, Kad Nehir, I remember, Kad Zachisi Lumad B'Yeshiva Eitzer Rabbeinu HaKadosh Maran Bal Chassam Sofer, when I was Zoichet to learn Torah by the Chassam Sofer, I heard from him regarding the Seder HaTefillah, that the Seder HaTefillah corresponds to the 4 worlds. And these 4 worlds are Abiyah. Abiyah is Atzilus. Atzilus is like the keys where the Kisei HaKavod is. Bria. is the world of the Malachim. Yetzira is the world of the celestial spheres, and Asiya is our world. And that's Rosh Tevos. Ashrei, Yoshvei, Veisecha, Oid, Yahalelucha. Atzilus, Yetzira, Bria, Asiya, Yahalelucha. So you have over here, V'gam Meruma Shem Yud Beishvatim. You have the 12 tribes, which is Yoshvei Veisecha is 12. Oid is the 70 nefesh that went down to Mitzrayim, which is the ayin of Oid, with the Shechina on them. Well, that's the Ashrei, meaning Ashrei, the Shechina. Yoshvei Veisecha, the 12 tribes. Oid is the 70 Shvatim. Or the Yud of Yahalelucha. Now, let's see if I could read this. The world of Asiya is the Olam HaTachton, the lower world. Yetzira is the Olam HaMalachim. Bria, a little different than I said. Yetzira is the world of the angels. Bria is the world of the Heichalos. Atzila is the Olam HaAtzilas Gavaya Mikol Gavaya Shomer. And by the way, each world corresponds to a different way to spell the Yud Kei Vav Kei. There are 4 ways to spell Yud Kei Vav Kei. You could spell it B'miluai, Yud Vav Dalet. Hey could be Hey Aleph. Hey could be Hey Hey. Hey could be Hey Yud. And there are different ways of spelling it out. The 4 ways yield 72. That's if you spell everything with a Hey Yud. Samach Gimel. Mem Hey, 45. And Ben. 72 is Olam HaAtzilus. Samach Gimel is Olam Heichalos. Mem Hey is Olam HaMalachim. And 52 is the Olam HaTachton. By the way, I highly recommend that you go out today and you get yourselves the Siddur Masoik Midvash, because there it tells you before each part of davening which Olam you're in, and which how to spell the name of Hashem in that olam. And we're going to see the Chassam Sofer used this recognition and understanding to explain a few things in davening. He says, the Seder HaTefillah until Baruch Sha'amar is you need to be miyached and be mala your soul from the olam HaTachton to the olam HaMalachim, which is the Shem Ben. From Baruch Sha'amar until Yod Sarar, you need to elevate your soul from the world of Malachim to the world of Eichalos. From Yod Sarar until Shemona Esrei, you need to raise yourself in Eichalos to the Atzilus, which is the same Samach Gimel, and Shemona Esrei is the Olam Atzilus Mamish. Therefore, you need to say in each chelek of the 4 chalakim, at the end of each, Shema Yisrael. That is, Eitzel Baruch Sha'amar. You say Shema Yisrael. By Yishtabach. Now we're in near Baruch Sha'amar. Do you say Shema Yisrael? Let's see if I have it over here. You have in Lefikach Anachnu Chayavim L'Hoides Avayim Pamayim Be'ahava. You have at the end of Oz Yashir. You have in Kriya Shema, and you have at the end of Aleinu. And with this we could answer the Kasha, the Beis Yosef. He wants to erase Shema Yisrael at the end of the Shira. According to what we're saying, it comes out very good. You need to be Miyached Hashem's name in each Olam. And of course, one of the times is Mamish Kriya Shema. And that's why you end with Aleinu Shabeach after with Shemona Esrei. By the way, says the Ramaram Shik, this explains why the Hasidim say Haidu before Baruch Sha'amar. Because really, L'chaira Nusach Ashkenaz seems more correct. That Haidu is part of Psukei de Zimra, so it needs to be within Baruch Sha'amar. So the Hasidim say as follows, that the end of Hoidu, let's see if I could read this. The Rashi Tevos at the end of Hoidu is Va'ani b'chazdecha v'tachti yagel libi bishuasecha. That's 6 plus 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10, plus 10 is 20, 50, 52. That's Gematria Ben. Now the Shem Ben, 52, is the Yud Kei Vav Kei of Karbanos. So therefore, it's an explanation of why Hoidu is more connected to the earlier part of davening, because that's the part of Ben, of the Yud Kei Vav Kei spelled out, Gematria Ben. Marv Rabbi, I found in the Sefer Pituchei Choisam. This is from the Abir Yaakov. The Abir Yaakov was the grandfather of the Baba Sali. He says, and I think this is very similar to what the Chassam Sofer says, that's why the Mesadrei HaTefilla arranged the davening, that each part of davening, which is Mechuven Keneged the Oilamos, again, the first part of davening is Keneged the Olam Asiya, Karbanos is Keneged the Olam Asiya, and then the Olam HaYitzira is the Malachim, and the Olam HaBriya is the Hechalos, and the Olam Atzilos. So he says that's why each part of davening has the number 13. Yuskar Minish, namely the Braisa of Rabbi Shmuel, 13 Midos. That's Keneged Olam Asiya. The 13 words of the 13 Baruch Sabar Sha'amar is the Yitzira. The 13 Shvachim of Yishtabach is Keneged Olam HaBriya. And the 13 Brachos Amsos of Shemona Esrei is Olam HaAtzilos. And in an upcoming Sefer that's about to be completed, and if anybody would like to be Mishtatev to help us bring it to light, we're finishing up in the next week to 2 weeks Magid Rakia, Siyat Dishma, and Sefer Shemois. So there we bring that the words of the Abir Yaakov could be explained based on the Chassam Sofer, that the same way the Chassam Sofer says, according to original Minhag Ashkenaz, you want to get Shema Yisrael into all 4 halakim of davening: Olam HaAsiya, Olam HaYitzira, Olam HaBriya, Olam HaAtzilos. You want to get it into the Karbanos. You want to get Shema into Karbanos. You want to get Shema into Psukei de Zimra. You want to get Shema in Berchas Kriya Shema. You want to get Shema in the end of davening. So likewise, we want to get the Yud Gimel Midos Harachamim in all 4 parts. We say, Hareshi Yesh Lahazker Aminyan Shlosh Esrei B'chol Arba Chelkei Atfila, because they correspond to the 4 worlds. And this could be explained based on the Chassam Sofer, that just like you have to be Meyached Hashem and be Mekabel's Malchus in all 4 worlds by saying Shema Yisrael, therefore we need to be Ma'oyer Yud Gimel Midos Sharachamim in all the Oilamos by mentioning it in all 4 parts of davening. So this is the conclusion of Psukei de Zimra. Be'ezus Hashem, we will soon begin Yishtabach. We may have a little bit of review, just so that we could reinforce the main ideas of Psukei de Zimra. And Be'ezus Hashem, we'll see everybody next Friday. Baruch Tiyah, Kol Tov.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.